Hello, thank you for joining today. My name is Marta and I'm a UX design consultant specialized in digital health. So part of my job is conducting independent user testing of digital health and well-being applications and publishing guidelines, best practice, and recommendations for health tech entrepreneurs. So today I would like to talk to you about 5 principles for creating health apps people love. So if you are a health tech entrepreneur and you're creating an app for patients or any kind of app that will help people start healthy lifestyle or maybe adopt healthier habits, these 5 principles will help you make sure that the product you're creating is really engaging. People do want to use it and they do want to come back to it again and again. So the 5 principles are transparency, autonomy, relevance, simplicity, and value exchange. So let's talk about the first principle, which is transparency. So this principle is all about creating trust and credibility. So for people to use your product, they have to trust it. And that means basically 2 things. They have to trust that their health information is safe within your product, and they also have to trust that the health recommendations that they receive from the app are credible and trustworthy. So the best way to do it is really just through transparency. So being open within the UI of your app about how you use people data, why are you asking them to enter this data, the intent of the product, and where the health information and recommendations are coming from. So as an example, we have an app called My Possible Self. So this is a mental health application. So they are explaining a little bit about what the cognitive behavioral therapy is. They're not going into huge amount of detail in terms of like clinical background, but that's fine. That would probably be too much. It might be too difficult to understand for people. So they're just really explaining a little bit about the method in a plain, simple, understandable language, which is again just building that credibility so people feel like they can actually trust the recommendations because they're approved, standard, tested methods. We can also see that in the sign up screen, they have 2 links. So the first one says, why do we need this? And the second one says, your rights explained. So both of those places will take people to somewhere where it just explains a bit more about why they're asking for information, how they're going to use it, how people can delete it and revoke their consent. So both of those approaches, they're really just creating this trust and credibility. So people feel safe that when they enter their health information, they know what's happening with it, they know how it's used, and they know that the methods and the recommendations they receive from the app are also credible and based on reliable resources. So the second principle is autonomy. And this principle is all about giving the user a choice and creating a sense of control over their experience and their journey with the product. So autonomy is actually one of the most basic human needs. We need to feel like we're making our own choices. We need to feel in control. And it's also one of the most fundamental principles of usability and UX design in general, not just for health products. But specifically for health products, what that means is that when the apps are providing any kind of recommendations or telling people what to do, telling them what their goal should be or what their target should be, in those cases it's very important that the app has informative and supporting tone, and it's guiding the user and curating relevant resources, but it doesn't feel like it's forcing the user down a path that the app wants for them to take. So the first example that we have here is an app called 30 Day Fitness. So here what they're doing is they allowing the user to choose how much effort they actually want to put into their health improvement journey. So this is very important because there will be people with different levels of motivation. So some people will be quite motivated and quite confident that they can actually start an intense program. But there will also be people that are beginners and are at the beginning of their health improvement journey, and maybe they're not so confident that they can actually stick to their goals. So maybe they just want to start with a chill program and start with maybe 5 minutes a day. So it's very important that the app is giving them this choice so they can choose the program that's best for them. The second example is an app called MyPlate. So this is a food tracking app. And here they are allowing people to choose targets for their nutrients. So they can choose how the percentage of protein, fat, and carbs that they want to intake throughout the day. So this example actually came up in the user testing sessions that I had. And one participant was following a ketogenic diet. So that's a diet that involves having a high fat intake and low carbs intake. So that participant commented that the app that they were using at the time didn't allow them to select their own targets. So they found that very annoying because what was happening is that the app just kept sending her notifications and nagging her that she's having too high fat intake, which was something that she actually wanted. So she found that very annoying and very restrictive that she couldn't make her own selections. So these are two examples of why having a sense of control and having the freedom to make their own choices and decide on their own targets, on their own goals, and on the effort that they want to put into the health improvement journey is very important. So the next principle is relevance. So this principle is all about personalizing the content and making it very relevant for the specific user. So nowadays there is tons of health information online, and that's good on one hand because it's very accessible, so everyone can find answers to their questions. But on the other hand, what's happening is that it's actually quite difficult for people to do their own research and sift through all that information to try to understand what's actually credible, what's actually relevant to their own particular case. So this example we have here. So this is an app called Caria, and this is a menopause tracking app. So in the insights section, I can see that they're giving me suggested tips. But what's interesting is these little labels where it says you logged alcohol or you logged caffeine. So what this app is doing is based on my tracking entries, and they are actually personalizing the tips for me. So if I tracked in my journal that I had some alcohol or I had some caffeine, the app will straight away pull up the relevant content, and straight away I can just learn what is the link between alcohol and menopause, and I don't have to go out of my way to Google and try to do this research on my own. The most relevant content is just presented to the user at the most relevant time. So the next principle is simplicity, and this is all about being very clear on what's like the one thing that your app does for the user and what's the one problem that you really want to solve for the person using this application. So when the user opens the app, they land on the homepage. If they were only going to do one thing, take one action, what is that action that they should take? So in this example, this is an app called My Life. This is meditation and mindfulness application. So as you can see, when I land on the home screen, there's only really one thing that they're asking me to do. So they're asking me to start my check-in flow. So that's my mood tracking, to say how I'm feeling that day. And it's really super clear. There's only just one button saying start, so I immediately see what I'm supposed to be doing in this application. And then once I completed my check-in and indicated how I'm feeling that day, based on that, they will recommend relevant mindfulness and meditation sessions based on how I'm actually feeling that day. So as you can see, this approach is creating very intuitive, very simple experience where, to begin with, they're only asking me to do one thing, just to start my check-in, my daily check-in, and then everything else kind of naturally follows through. So one thing very naturally leads to another. And that's a great approach to create very simple, very intuitive experience. The second example is very similar. It's an application called Flow. So this is a period tracking application, and it's a very similar case here where on the home page they're really just asking me to do one thing. They're just asking me to track my period and track my symptoms. And then they also have a community section, and they also have this health insights section. So that's the educational content, articles and courses. So again, based on my tracking, they will recommend relevant articles. But every time I open this app and see the homepage, there's only one thing that they're asking me to do, and it's very, very clear what I'm supposed to be doing in this application. So the last principle for today is value exchange. So that means that the app shouldn't ask too much from the user before it provided some value to the user first. And the area where I see a lot of apps getting it wrong is the onboarding flow. So a lot of the time, the onboarding flow focuses on getting what they want from the user. So they want their email address, they want them to opt in to push notifications, they want them to allow location services, and they're just asking, at the point where the user doesn't really know the product yet. They don't trust it, they've not tried it, they've not seen it, so they don't know if this product will actually provide value, and they don't know if they actually want to use it. A very good example is an app called Grow. So these first three screens are part of the onboarding flow, and here we can see that, for example, they're asking me about my focus. So I can see that they're really focused on me. They're trying to understand what my goals are, what I want to achieve. And then when I get into the app, they're giving me one small action to do. So it just says, smile to yourself because you rock. It's a very small action. I can do it immediately. And once I've ticked off that action, they're giving me an achievement, a badge for completing that action. So straight away, within the first maybe 30 seconds of interacting with this app, I understand how this app works. I understand how it can help me. And I'm even already getting some sense of satisfaction because in the first 30 seconds, I've already done something positive for myself and I've already been praised for it. And then as you can see, they asking me to create an account while I'm already within the app. So if I go into my profile, I can see that I've been using this app as a guest and I can create my account. So, and then I can even see that if I create the account, probably I will be able to see more of the achievements and the badges that I've received. So if they asked me to create an account straight away at the very beginning of the flow, like most apps are doing, that wouldn't be as compelling for me because I've not tried this app yet. I don't know how it works. I don't know what the benefits of creating the account are for me. So I would be much less compelled. So this is a very good example of how the app can really focus on providing the user the value first, in the first interaction, in the onboarding flow, before they ask something in return. So these are the 5 principles for creating user-friendly apps. Thank you for joining me today. And if you have any questions or would like to chat about any of those topics, obviously I'm more than happy to engage in the provided LinkedIn group, so by all means, please do get in touch. Thank you.